most popular thing on the market that will create an ungodly amount of porn? Check. The most popular thing in Japan? Check. Now we go to the most popular anime for angsty teenagers. You know what I'm talking about. Another one of those anime with too much gore, special effects, epic music, and possibly Satan, so that teenagers and young adults would sit in their comfortable rooms masturbating on whatever counts as moe this season instead of doing something useful with their lives. Previous season it was Drifters. This season it's Yojo Senki, or Saga of people who know about foreign namings only from Wikipedia articles. And before I even start, I will say this. Whatever you think of this anime, they sure know how to advertise their product, I'll give them that. So our story begins with a typical Japanese middle-class white-collar doing what every typical middle-class white-collar people like to do all over the world. Autofillate himself and his way of life, saying how fucking awesome he is and how fucking effective he is and la la la, to put it shortly. In an event of a communist or religious takeover, people like these tend to die first. And after a perfect demonstration why these people tend to die first, our hero encounters God, whose name I won't pronounce because I'm not fucking stupid, and after our hero effectively talks shit, God reasonably gets pissed at him, and as God usually does, he invents a particularly inventive punishment. Our white collar gets reincarnated in a parallel dimension Russo Germania as a little girl a few years before World War I. And since our white collar can't take the hint, he goes on an atheistic crusade to both become something big in this world and stick it into God's ugly mug. So in other words, I can very much relate to this character. As the show progresses, our little Tanya von Degerchov becomes more and more powerful both politically and militarily, thanks to God literally forcing her to become a paladin or die, and the First World War slowly turns into Second World War, with God creating more and more obstacles on her way, including blessing other people with his divine powers and wisdom. People really like this sort of shit, do they? Well, as much as I would like to piddle all over this anime like a chimpanzee with a urinary conscience, I honestly struggle to come up with anything worthwhile to say about this anime. It's not that I didn't like it. The music and the graphics are pretty decent, with both opening and ending sounding alive and motivating, just like they should. And while some people might dislike the fact that almost every soldier and military piece is made in a painfully average CG and women's faces tend to look like Matryoshka dolls, it never really bothered me. The world here is also pretty good, at least in the beginning. The battle mages don't look outlandish compared to the regular troops, their tactics are more or less believable, if a bit standard fighty shooty pow-pow-ish. The battles overall show the usual horrors of the First World War. Trenches, charges, machine guns, and the military itself acts with a mixture of noble beliefs and blind retardation, you know the drill. Unfortunately, the more show progresses and your characters tamper with it, the less believable the world becomes and turns into a mildly annoying civilization game where knights suddenly turn into tanks. The characters here, while all have a name and introduction signifying their importance, are ultimately boring and forgettable with the exception of our main protagonist and possibly her Russian patter, as I like to call her. That shell-shocked girl with a blank and slightly confused expression on her face. This, in combination with the fact that the action slowly devolved into a pretty one-sided fight, made me care less and less about the characters. And this is kinda the feeling I had when the show finally finished. The more bombastic the show became, the less I was paying attention to it and kinda dozed off. There is a particular cliché one can sometimes see in Trapped in Another World works. A character who in previous life was either overly ruthless or was in the military is getting trapped in the body of a person of ye old, and using the almighty powers of modern humans, he radically changes the social and even the technological level of this world, resulting in a wish-fulfilling power fantasy and a very boring story. The reasoning for this is very simple. Eventually, you realize that the main character and his friends won't die, even if all odds are against them. No matter how much our character tampers with reality, no matter what obstacles he will face, you know that he won't fail because he's effectively too smart to fail. The same goes for his sidekicks. And if you know the outcome, why should you care? Besides Tanya, none of the characters or what was happening on the screen have managed to impress me, and even then, the only reason why I remembered Tanya was because character-wise, she and I think similarly. And that's not enough for me to recommend this anime to people. Yojo Senki is like Transformers, a pretty show that many viewers will probably like because of explosions, death, and the protagonist, but just like Transformers, it is nothing more than something to mindlessly watch and forget about until the next part comes. And to those people that say shit like, I would do the same in her situation, or wow, she's so evil, it's hella cool, I will remind you that there is a lot of places where you can be just like her, yet for some reason I don't see a big line of people to actually be true to their words. I wonder why.
you.